Inflation is not rising prices or the general increase of prices. That's the consequence of inflation. So I got this comment on my inflation video, which I posted 5 months ago. You can go watch it. So I got this guy who said inflation is not defined as the increase in money supply. It is a general increase in prices, which is very different, especially in the long run. Any student having followed a 101 macroeconomic course understands that. And thinking Bitcoin is money shows you don't understand what money is and its essential characteristics to make it a viable alternative. Wishful thinking is not enough. Bitcoin is pure speculation. It's a simple fact. Now, I responded saying not according to the Austrian School of Economics. That definition serves central banks because they want to blame the general increase in price to Putin or wherever. What's the root cause of the general increase in prices? Expansion of the money supply. Inflation should be defined from its origin, money supply. General increase in prices is just the visible symptom. So basically the argument here, I'm not going to go into the Bitcoin being a speculation and all of that. That's maybe for another video. But the argument that this guy put forward is that inflation is by definition the general increase in prices. And of course, this is the definition of mainstream economics. It's not the definition of the Austrian economists. The general increase of prices, that's the result of inflation, which is the expansion of the money supply. So if we look at the definition of Mises and Henry Hazlitt and other Austrian economists, but in particular Mises, Ludwig von Mises. So we have here for Mises and Hazlitt, inflation is defined as a general increase in the supply of money and credit that leads to a decline in the purchasing power of each unit of money. In other words, when the government or when the central bank prints more money, that leads to a decline in the purchasing power of every unit of money. In other words, if 1 unit of money can buy less goods, that means the price of the goods has increased and the value of the money has decreased. Or we can also say the price of the good didn't actually move, it's just that the value of the money has decreased. So they distinguish this from rising prices of specific goods caused by supply or demand shocks, emphasizing that true inflation stems from monetary expansion, making each individual dollar less valuable. In other words, there are other forms of inflation that are the result of market dynamics or supply and demand dynamics or shocks. But the true inflation, or let's just say the inflation that we talk about, is actually government manufactured or central bank manufactured. It's manufactured by the central bank. It doesn't happen out of nowhere. It doesn't just happen because Putin started a war or whatever. It happens because the central banks print money out of thin air. That's why inflation skyrocketed after the COVID, when the American government printed $2 trillion for the stimulus checks and so on. And so here, Mises' view, he says here, Ludwig von Mises defined inflation as an increase in the money supply, not offset by a rise in the demand for money, which results in a fall in money's purchasing power. Henry Hazlitt's view, in his work Economics in One Lesson, which is a great book that I recommend you guys go and read. I read it many years ago, and maybe I should read it again. It's a really good book. So Hazlitt argued that when the supply of money increases, more money is available to chase goods. If the supply of goods doesn't increase correspondingly, prices will rise, making each individual dollar less valuable. I literally explained this in my inflation video. I explain it visually. So go watch my inflation video and you will understand this visually, which is better. So in summary, the Mises-Hazlitt perspective. The cause of inflation, increased quantity of money and credit. Effect, devaluation of currency, leading to a general rise in prices. So that's the effect of inflation. Key idea, true inflation is not higher prices, but a reduction in the purchasing power of money due to more money in circulation. So whenever I talk about inflation, I am not talking about the rise in prices of goods and services. I'm talking about the expansion of the money supply. That's the root cause of all modern problems. Go listen to Gary Economics. I also made videos about Gary Economics. Pretty much everything he mentions, the root cause of it is the expansion of the money supply. It's inflation. It's government or central bank printing more money and distorting markets, distorting the natural free markets and how it operates. So yeah, that's what I want to say in this video. Inflation is not per se the increase of general prices. Inflation is the expansion of the money supply, which leads to the rise of general prices. So that's all I want to say in this video. Let me guys know what you think in the comments below. Go watch my video about inflation. You will understand this better because I explain it visually and with go into much details than I did here. Subscribe to my channel. Let me guys know what you think in the comments below and see you in the next one. Take care.